Today's scripture passage occurs 11 years after last week's. Abram and Sarai have had a number of adventures. There was a famine, so they had to go to Egypt, and they had some run-ins with the local pharaoh, and then they've come back. And now they're on good land, and the living is easy, but still no pregnancy, no children after that promise from God. Sarai's faith in Abraham's God is running thin, so she takes matters into her own hands. She instructs Abram to have sex with one of her slaves, which she probably got when she was in Egypt, Hagar. And at that time, the people who owned enslaved people would also own whatever children they had. So the child would be Abram's as well as Sarai's. So in a sense, it was sort of fixing the descendant issue for Sarai. Hagar will serve as a surrogate mother of sorts, and Sarai hopes that she will no longer feel the shame of her barrenness. So Abram, despite God's promise that God would come through with a son for him, goes ahead and has sex with Hagar, and she becomes pregnant. For a while, it looks like everyone's going to get what they want. But that's not the way it turns out. And one of the features of stories in the Hebrew Scriptures is that no one is perfect. People often come to the Bible hoping to hear stories of perfect religious role models. People you go, oh yeah, that's the kind of person I should be because they're so flawless and perfect, and why can't I be like that? And look, and there's a perfect way of showing what perfection can look like. They want to meet pious people who do no wrong, who can be an inspiration. But that is not what you find in the Hebrew Scriptures. That's not what David was like, or Moses was like, or Abraham for that matter. All of the major figures in the Hebrew Scriptures are flawed in some way. Nobody gets through a story without having a flaw. Noah does everything right. He builds the ark, and then at the end he gets drunk. And he passes out, and there's a big hullabaloo. Moses kills a man. King David seems to be doing everything right, but then he sees a woman on the roof next door, and he has her over, and he has sex with her, even though he knows that she's married to one of his generals. Then he arranges to get the general killed at the front. Not good, and God is not impressed. So all of the major figures make mistakes. They harbor resentments and grudges. They can do wonderful things, but they are always emphatically, obviously human, with all the light and shadow which that entails. And Sarai shows that humanity here. She sets up this pregnancy with Hagar, so she should be she should be happy with what happens, but not at all. When Hagar starts acting haughty and boastful, Sarai is enraged and says, "Get her out of here." So Sarai is cast out. And Abram, the supposed hero of this story, the man who will be the father to nations, he just sort of goes, okay, whatever you want. He's not acting in a heroic way. He's being very passive, and he's just letting this terrible thing happen. Why does the Bible have characters like this? Why can't they be good and show us how to be good? Well, it's like we're being presented with a choice. We can pretend that people are better than they are, and that maybe we're better than we are, or we can be confronted by people who seem like real people, reminding us of what it's like for us to be real people, to not get on our high horses and entertain notions of us being better than we are. And the Bible constantly chooses that path. I'm going to show you some flawed people. Do you relate? These people in the Bible will not improve on their own. If they improve, it is through their relationship with God. Getting to know God and how God can change us is the point of the Hebrew Scriptures and the Bible generally. Some walk towards God and improve. Others walk away from God and get worse. And even the ones who walk towards God, like Abram, don't end up perfect, but they do end up better. For we are all human, always capable of coming up short, even when we are trying to follow God. That's just who we are. But with God, we can be better. Not perfect, but better. Now, I'd like to say 3,000 years later that we've become better than these characters who we meet in the Hebrew Scriptures. But lately, it seems like humans are just as flawed as ever. Margaret Atwood used this story of Hagar as the inspiration for her novel, The Handmaid's Tale. In it, she imagines a fertility crisis in a land which is obviously inspired by the United States. Most women have become barren, like Sarai, so the fertile few become enslaved to bear the children of the wealthy. That was fiction, but lately it seems like we're getting closer to it becoming reality. World fertility rates are down. All over the world, in the West and in Japan, couples are having smaller and smaller families, if they have children at all. And the only way to keep the population up is to bring in immigrants. Yet all over the world, industrialized nations like Canada and the United States have been reducing immigration. In the US, immigrants and refugees are falsely accused of being criminals, a thin cover for racism against black and brown people. In Canada, our inability to create enough housing has led the federal government to agree to reduce the number of refugees and immigrants and international students. Yet the math stays the same. Canada's fertility rate has dropped precipitously. I think the far end of the graph is in the 1940s, and the far end, this end of the graph, where it goes very, very small, is the present day. Our fertility rate is 1.48 children per couple right now, far too low to maintain the population. You need to be at least 2. This will make it harder and harder for the economy to produce enough wealth to fund our pension system, which retired people rely on. 2 years ago, I attended a town hall meeting in Thorncliffe Park where Rob Oliphant was speaking, and at that time the Liberals had an explicit policy where for 3 years they were going to bring in 400,000 to 500,000 immigrants a year. It was a huge boost in the amount of immigrants coming into the country. And he explained it explicitly. He said, listen, we can't afford our pension system unless we have more people to work, pay taxes, and keep that thing afloat. But if immigration slows, we have the same problem. Where are the young workers going to come from? There are a few solutions being offered. If you listen to the tech giants from the Silicon Valley, they have said that artificial intelligence is about to revolutionize the work world so that we simply won't need as many workers to get the same amount of work done. And they openly anticipate a phase of great unemployment as white-collar jobs are wiped out. So from their perspective, don't worry about immigration. We're going to have lots of people unemployed. It'll be fine. In Japan, they've taken a different approach since the Japanese haven't been very open to immigration. And so their scientists and the government have been heavily investing in robots to replace missing workers. So if you go to places like Tokyo, there are robots working in Tokyo restaurants as your waiter, bringing food and taking your orders. And in Japan, robots are also being used in long-term care homes to provide socialization and company, as well as some PSW work. They have a serious labor shortage, so they're figuring maybe robots can do the work for them. However, most countries in the world aren't going with robots, and the AI revolution hasn't happened yet, so they've opted for an old-fashioned solution, which is simply, we need to have more babies. All over the West, governments are offering couples incentives to have more children in the form of tax breaks and cash bonuses. Efforts to ban abortion are part of this as well. I know abortion bans are often presented in religious terms. It's simply immoral to have an abortion. But in the United States, for instance, 17 states which ban abortion are also states which still have capital punishment. So they have no problem with killing adults, but they have a problem with killing fetuses. So the argument that it's all about human dignity and human life and being pro-life is a thin argument. If they were really committed to pro-life, they'd be also stopping capital punishment. In countries with right-wing governments, women are increasingly being told that their place is in the home, having babies. They are told that immigrants are going to replace the domestic population. This is called the Great Replacement Theory. It suggests that white voters will be outnumbered by immigrants and thus be able to swamp the system. Trump and Vance have both endorsed this theory in America explicitly. It is racist, and it puts more pressure on American women to stay home and have babies for the good of the nation. The politics of birth have not changed much since Abraham's time. When people think they need babies, they will make desperate choices and desperate decisions to have babies, even if it means trampling on other people's rights. It's happening in our day, and it happened in the days of Abram and Sarai. Sarai gets Hagar pregnant with Abram's child out of desperation. Then out of wounded pride, she has Hagar cast out. Knowing that she's pregnant, she will be alone, she's an enslaved person, her family is far away in Egypt. There's a good chance that she could die out there. So when we read the Bible, we expect to hear hope in it. So where's the hope in this story where everyone is acting badly? Well, the hope comes from God. As Hagar wanders through the desert, she meets an angel, a messenger from God. In her society, Hagar is a nobody, a woman cast out, an enslaved person. She is the last person you would expect an angel to speak to. But there the angel is. The woman who has been thrown away like garbage is addressed by an angel, the first person in the Bible to be spoken to by an angel like this. They meet on the road to a place called Shur, S-H-U-R, which is the exact same place where the Israelites will escape to when they leave Egypt, following God after that escape through the Red Sea. It's not a coincidence. The text is underlining that God is with God's people, even when they are in trouble and they've been rejected and they're on the run. Everything about this encounter between the angel and Hagar is extraordinary. The angel says Hagar's name out loud. This is the first time anyone in the story says her name. And even more remarkable, Hagar gives a name to God, the only person in the entire Hebrew Scriptures to do so. Hagar is told that she matters, that her son, Ishmael, will be the father of a great nation. Ishmael means God hears. He will become the father of all Arabs, a nomadic desert people who live in the wilds. The angel provides a blessing to Hagar just as God made a blessing to Abram. So, we think of the Abraham story as, he's the hero of the story. He becomes the father of nations. Well, she's being told she will be the mother of nations as well. This person who shouldn't matter at all. She should be a footnote in the story, and yet she is raised up to an equal level to Abram. For all Christians who may think that it is okay to persecute refugees and migrants or to treat women with disdain, let them hear this story. God is unambiguously on Hagar's side. She is told to go back and have the baby in safety. Now, people being people, when Hagar returns to have the baby, her struggles with Sarah are not over. She and her son will be cast out again, but God will come to their rescue once more. God favors Hagar, just as God keeps rescuing innocent people on the run throughout the Bible. Their worth is not measured in their wealth or their social respectability. Instead, God helps the helpless, for all of us are God's children, even the outcasts. There's an interesting coda to this story. In the Quran, when Hagar's son Ishmael is born, Abraham actually takes Hagar and Ishmael, and he brings them to what becomes Mecca. They are the settlers of Mecca, now the holy city of Islam. Ishmael becomes the ancestor not only of all Arabs, but he also becomes the ancestor of the Prophet Muhammad. And according to Muslim tradition, Hagar, in her second encounter with the angel, she finds a spring. And pilgrims now who go to Mecca, they visit that spring and revere it, remembering that she was the one who found it. So for millions of Muslims, Hagar is a hero of the faith, very much a somebody. Today, our challenge is to live up to God's call. We are far more like Abram and Sarai than we would like to admit. We often allow people to get vast. We often allow people to get vast out. I don't know what I meant there. Not vast, but cast. There we go. We often allow people to get cast out as we pursue our narrow self-interest. I should have proofread this. Homeless people. Homeless people. People who, I'm being very imperfect. Thank you. Got it. Thank you. Well done. Homeless people, people who use drugs, refugees, they are cast out in the name of respectability, in the name of self-defense of nations. But God calls on us to look beyond our narrow self-interest, to consider the welfare of all people. For we are all children of God, and we could all be cast out. It's interesting. Yesterday, my wife asked me, should I apply for my British passport? Because she was just born in Britain. And I said, why? But it was obvious why she was asking. Because if things go really badly with the Americans, should we have an escape plan? Right? I mean, we've all felt very comfortable for a very long time, but everybody is always at risk sometimes of being cast out. It's not just the people who end up on the streets. There's lots of people in many nations all over the world who thought they were totally safe, and they got cast out. Today's story is a reminder that the people who get cast out are still God's people, and God expects them and calls on us to give them as much respect as we would give them when they were comfortable and living in their houses in safety. In fact, sometimes angels visit the outcasts first, and those stories are kept alive generation after generation to remind us of humanity's potential to improve, to draw closer to God on earth. Amen.